Wellness Wednesday. I am Carla Youngblood and I am your host. Hope we'll have some folks who will join us tonight for Wellness Wednesday. We're going to wait a few minutes to see if we have anyone to join us tonight. Um, Before we launch into what we're going to talk about tonight. I hope everyone had a very nice Memorial Day, that you got to hang out with family and friends or whatever it was you decided to do. Just going to wait just a little bit to see if we have anyone join us. We did jump on a minute or so early tonight. I'm not sure how long I will be on here, but I did want to jump on tonight just for a little bit and share a little bit with you. I am actually going live on my iPad. I want to kind of see what it looks like going live from my iPad, so that'll be interesting. Hello, if you've joined us tonight, welcome to Wellness Wednesday. Please give us a like, show us some hearts, let us know you are out there. We appreciate you. Tonight, I wanted to take some time and talk about friendships as a 50 plus woman. I recently went to Baltimore over the weekend, Memorial Day weekend, and hung out with some friends. For those of you who don't know, I've lived in Baltimore for about 25 years, so the majority of my adulthood I spent in Baltimore, where I established relationships. Hey, Alex. And, have very good relationships that I've developed with people there in Baltimore and women. So, my one girlfriend and I, we have been friends for, I think we said 27 years. We figured it out because it was before her son was born, and he's now 27 years old. So I know for me as a woman that, it, as you age, it becomes harder to develop friendships and relationships. So I really treasure the relationships that I have. I don't know if it's the same way for men. So if you have men on here tonight, as a mature man, is it easy for you guys to develop relationships as you get older? For me, I think for women, it becomes more of a challenge. And for me, why I say it's more of a challenge is because as you age, you don't have as much time, you don't have the energy. So your time is spent in a lot of different ways, and so you really kind of categorize what you do with your time, and if you really are going to invest time into a relationship, because relationships require investment. And so if you're going to develop, and now I'm just talking about same-sex friendships, this is what I'm talking about today. We'll come back and maybe another time we'll talk about opposite sex relationships. But in same-sex relationships, for me as a woman, for you as a man or a woman, is it more of a challenge as you age to develop relationships? And as I said, for me, it's more of a challenge because my time is very divided. I travel for work. I'm busy doing the things that I like, hardly home. And when I am, I'm trying to rest or catch up on some things that I need to do, my house stuff, taking care of whatever else I choose to take care of. So if I'm going to invest in a relationship, I know that it's going to cost me something. And mostly what it costs you is your time. And so I have to decide, you have to decide, is your time something you're willing to risk for someone else that you don't know? Are you at a place in your life where you can invest that kind of time to develop another relationship with a girlfriend, or with a guy friend? Is that something that as you age you kind of see there's space for that? Like I said, my one girlfriend, we said we've been friends for 27 years. What's your longest relationship? Put it in the comments. Let me know the longest relationship that you have with a person. And then my other girlfriend, we've probably been friends 15 years. And then they're not the only two friendships that I have in Baltimore. I have another friend, we probably 12 years, and so others maybe 8 years, less than 10 years. But since moving back home, I really haven't, had the time or the energy to develop those relationships. Hey, Jax, because, like I said, it's an investment. And not only an investment of my time, it's also an investment of energy. And so, are you willing to put that time in? Who's my nephew? Are you willing to put that time in? Are you willing to do what it takes to have those relationships? That it matters, And so, as a man, you're on here. Tell me, do you invest in relationships with other males as you're aging? Do you have space in your life for those? The other thing it takes is the reason why it takes time is because it takes a lot of energy to decide that, how you're going to spend your time, for one thing. And when you decide how you're going to spend your time, I don't know that you're thinking about, okay, I have X amount of time for a relationship. I have, X amount of time for this. Because for me, when I think about the extra time that I have, you know what I'm thinking about? I want to go to the gym. I have some other activities that I like to participate in, and so I'm not thinking about relationships outside of what I already have when I'm thinking about what I want to do with my time. And so, as you're thinking about your time, as you're thinking about what it takes for a relationship, they say people come into our lives for a reason, a season, for a lifetime. Are we still into lifetimes with people? Or are we into relationships that are reasons? Or are we into relationships that are seasons? Because if so, that's different than lifetime. When I grew up, we thought of relationships in terms of lifetimes. And so that's why I can tell you that, I've been in the relationship for 27 years or 15 years with my friends, because that's how we looked at relationships that many years ago. Now, I'm not so sure that people anticipate that they're going to be in relationships, for anything other than a reason or a season. And I don't know if it's just because, it's the difference in how we're living our lives now, or if it's just that, we don't. understand the importance of having those kinds of relationship or what it really is. I know for me, I always think in terms of what is it going to take, and what does this person want from me, and what do I want from them? Relationships for me at this point have to be win-win. You win, I win. There has to be an advantage to being in a relationship with you. There has to be an advantage for you as well. I don't want you coming into my life because you feel like, oh, well, you know what, she can really teach me something, or I can learn something from her. In those kind of relationships, I can mentor you, or I can coach you. You can, join one of my programs. But as far as really developing a ongoing relationship, that is something that I feel like, it was something that was in the past. We just don't value it the same way. We just don't have the time in our life for that. And so, it's something that I feel is missing as well. The reason why I can say I feel like it's missing is because I do have those relationships. I do understand the value of having someone in your life that will tell you the truth. Having someone in your life who will say, hey girl, I didn't want anything. I was just checking on you. You came across my mind. I wanted to see how you were doing. Those kinds of things. You get, as you age, you get past a place where, you're really looking for somebody to bring something to you. You know what you bring to the table. And so the relationship has to have value in order for you to invest into it. And that's what I'm saying. If this is true for you, give me a thumbs up. Is this true for you, that if you're going to develop a relationship now with someone, is it something that brings value, has to bring value to you, or is it something that you feel like you need because you don't have any relationships in your life? I'm very curious about this because when I posted in another group about, going to see some friends, and how, we've had these relationships for a very long time, and how I felt it was like difficult to develop relationships, I had other women chime in and say the same thing, that they thought that it was difficult to develop relationships with women. And I'm sure what they were talking about were relationships that are lasting, because reason seasons, we can do those. I think, reason season, you just, somebody comes in, you work together, when you leave that job or they leave that job, you never really talk to each other again. It's because you worked together, you were friends or whatever. A season may be because there's something going on in your life, and at that time, the person brings some sort of value, and you do the same for them. And so it just may be for a season that this is going on in your life. You're going through a situation of some sort, and this person can add value to your life. And so that's what you do, and I think it's so important that we begin to understand that when you know what it is you want in your life, you really move towards that. And I think a lot of us don't know what it is we want. So we find ourselves in situations where we, try to be interruptive of other things that people are doing. Just like people here posting stuff. Come on, get a life. Life is short. You don't have time. The value of relationships are understanding that life is short, and you want to do something of value with your life. When you want to do something of value with your life, you move to do something that brings joy to you and to others. You're not When I really think about what we do, especially on social media, I think sometimes I look on social media and I wonder, why in the world are you people on here? Why are you wasting your time saying stuff of no value? Like when people are seriously trying to find value in life, like don't do stuff that don't bring value to you, because guess what, there's so many things that you can have that would be of value. And when you make sure that you are doing those sorts of things, it makes a difference. It makes a difference. And so you want to make sure that you're doing things that make a difference. You want to make sure that you are doing things that bring value. Because you know why, Logan? You can go anywhere and listen. You don't have to stop here and listen. You can go to any channel and listen. You stopped by. I didn't, bro. I'm talking to people who are interested in what I have to say. Hey, Preppy, good to see you here. It's so important that if you decide to be in a meaningful, yes, I remember you. It's so important that if you decide to be in a healthy relationship, that you know why you are in it. When you understand why you are in it, then it makes a difference. You'll do something different. You know what I'm saying? When you value your time and your energy, you don't have time for the foolishness. Preppy, they're just having a good time. That's it. I'm just deleting them and reporting them. Um, but when you really want something of value, it can happen for you because you can um, invite it into your life. In order to have something of value, you have to give value, is what I'm saying. The reason why I think it's hard for some relationships is because if you don't have value to give, you can't expect it in return. If you don't have value to give, you cannot expect it in return. And so, you know how you know what you have to give? It's what you do with your time. What are you doing with your time? Are you bringing value, or are you trying to devalue situations? Yes, you have to give value in order to get value. But if you don't, I really feel like we live in a world now where people don't understand that that really exists. And maybe this is what makes it hard to develop relationships, because people don't understand that value is something that you can have. Their value is in, being negative. Thank you. Their value is in being negative, or just seeing, how they can stir things up sitting behind a computer or a phone. Like, there's so much more to all of us. And I think when we realize that we have value and we bring value, we can connect around those things with other people. And what has happened, sadly, I believe, and I'm just talking about 50 plus women. I don't know if this is younger women or not. And if you're younger, you please chime in. But I know 50 plus women, we've been through some things. We understand that, hey, I'm not gonna waste my time. I don't have time to waste. I agree with that. I agree with that, Alex, 100%. And so I think in those cases, like what you're saying, Alex, is that those are the places where you quickly remove yourself away from those, so that the thing that is of value can find its way to you. I believe that if you keep speaking value, that you're going to draw that to you. We are like a current. We draw things to us, but we only draw it based on what we're giving out of us. And so I think that there's more good in us than there is more positive than negative. I think being negative has become a default for us. And so it's easy to default to that. And I think that is a waste of our lives as human beings. As a human being, we have more value than we do less value. I believe, yes, absolutely. But here's the thing, you can't be a conduit of anything that you don't attach yourself to. You know what I'm saying? So when you really think about it, or anybody can be a conduit, but it's a choice, Alex. We choose that. We choose to be a conduit. And I think that by nature, if we really believe that we were created by God, that the nature of God in us would be for good and not for evil. But I think that the reason why it's so hard for relationships is because some of us default to evil because we're hurt, because we're in pain, because somebody didn't do what they promised to do. So it's easier for me to default to ugliness and to negativity. That's the default. But it's a default because over time we've learned how to lean into that default. The reason why any of us can be in happy and healthy relationships is because we default to that. We default to looking for the things that are good. Absolutely. Absolutely, Alex. We default to wanting the best. And I think when that becomes your default, you have less time in your life for the foolishness because you realize the foolish things are taking away from the things in my life that could really be valuable. And so as a mature person, you realize that, so you don't have a lot of time for foolishness. Now that I've learned how to delete these conversations that I don't want, I delete them, I remove them. I don't have time for that because there are people who really want to hear what you're saying or what I'm saying. And so I talk to them. Yeah, Alex, we've all been foolish, and this is why I say what I say is because I've matured to the place where I realize the foolish things don't bring value to my life, and they didn't bring value to anybody else's life that were a recipient of my foolishness. And so what you start learning is I want to bring something of value because I want something back of value. That's a real thing. It's a real thing that can happen for any of us. Yes, we can choose to leave the foolishness behind. It's a choice that all of us have. And so when I think about friendships, I think about how half of them are disqualified because of foolishness. Because I'm not going to deal with that. You're not going to deal with that. So you disqualify half the people. So now you have another half of people that you have to decide now. Is this someone, that I can invest in, that I can invest my time and energy in? Some people disqualify themselves just by the way they act. So you don't even have to worry about them. They disqualify themselves by the way they act. But I believe that no man or woman is an island. We all need relationships that are healthy in our lives. I need that in my life. And I'm sure if you're on here listening, you need that in your life. I want those that bring value to me. I don't want anything other than that. I don't even have time for anything other than that. So if if I start realizing this isn't going to bring any value, they're going to be gone. They do. They just go away. That's what I'm talking about, Alex. Some folks disqualify themselves because after a while, the conversation that you have with them is going to be a turnoff, and they're just going to find their way to walk away from the relationship with you. And people have walked away from me, and I've walked away from others because if there's no value, what is the point? I'm not out here to people please. I don't care who likes me or don't like me at this point in my life. I really don't. It is hard. It's not that it's easy. And Alex, it's not about easy or hard when it comes to relationships. It's about doing what is right for you. When you start doing what is right for you, easy or hard doesn't even come into play because it's just, this is something that I know that I need to do. I know that I need to move away from you because you're not good for me. You know, when I interact with you, I don't feel good afterwards. I want people, when I'm interacting with them, I'm happy. It makes me feel good. We connect. You know, they inspire me. They make me want to go after my dreams. I spent 3 days with one of my friends, and I'm like, I spent this time with you because I know you never tire of me. And she's like, girl, you're my sister. But it's just that we feed each other. We understand each other. We are really sisters. We're not sisters by blood, but we're sisters because we've connected on another level. We are spiritually connected. We understand certain things. Iron sharpens iron, yes. And when you're in those kind of relationships, Alex, you know what? You won't settle for less because you understand what iron sharpens iron does for you. Like when I came back home after that weekend, I feel so much better. I feel inspired. That's why I'm talking about friendships today, is because after spending time with those friends, I feel like, okay, I have some more energy. I can go a little further. I feel like, okay, I'm inspired. That was a shot in the arm for me. We sat down over dinner and speaking of dinner, thank you. If you guys have seen my shorts on soul food in Baltimore, I think I am almost at 3,000 views on that video. So the key is for all of us is to make sure, oh, you're so welcome, to make sure that we're finding space and creating space in our lives for things that really bring us joy, things that uplift us, things that inspire us, things that make us dream, things that make you want to do something, things that make you want to go after your dreams. Hey, I'm doing well. How are you? You want to connect yourself to things that make you dream. What are you dreaming of? Who in your life can help your dream to come to pass? Who in your life inspires you? That's what you want from your relationships. You want your relationships to inspire you to go after those things. So when you walk away from it, you feel like, oh man, we didn't even talk about my dream, but just the connection that we had ignited that dream within me again. It's shown a light on it. And it makes me feel like I have exactly what I need to go after it. That's what healthy people bring to you. And you know what I'm afraid of? I'm afraid that a lot of the negative things that we're hearing from people is because they don't have that in their lives. Because if you have someone in your life who is inspiring you, someone who's lifting you up, someone who is, sharing goodness with you, you can't be negative. Yes, I love that for you, Alex. You can't be negative. You're going, that positivity is going to rub off on you, or you're going to go the other way, like you said earlier, Alex. If no one's inspiring you, that relationship isn't lifting you up, it's not positive, you're going to walk away from them, or they're going to walk away from you. One or the other. You're not going to be able to stay in the presence of someone who's bringing you down, because all it's going to do is leave you depressed, frustrated. I don't know about you all. That's not what I want in my life. And you know what, Alex? Here's the thing. Like, everybody has to save themselves. Like, at this point in my life, I'm not trying to save anyone. I'm trying to be an example of light. And so that anyone who sees the light in me wants that same light within themselves and know that it's possible for them too. We all have light in us. Yes. But we don't always connect with the light in us. And here's my thing. If darkness is showing up, it's because, that shadow, that it takes light to bring that shadow out. And so sometimes the darkness that is in ourselves, we have to shine a light on that so that we can further illuminate. I'm not saying that I have it all together, because I don't. But I have enough of it together to know that this is the path that I'm on, and this is a path that I'm going to stay on. I'm not getting off. I'm not getting off for anybody. Family, friends, I'm not getting off of this path, because it took me a long time to get here. When you start valuing who you are, yes, I love that. When you begin to value who you are, you don't put yourself in situations where you are devalued. And even if you do, you don't stay there long, because you understand this doesn't work for me. So I need to remove myself. And so a lot of times those are reason and season relationships is because there's no value that can continue beyond a reason and a season. So those relationships don't become lifetimes. It's hard to be a lifetime. I'm very fortunate to have lifetimes. And to me, a lifetime, 27 years, that's a lifetime. That's 2 generations going on 3 that I've had this one particular person in my life. And I've had other longer relationships, but just not the same. It's like we're still, I can see you and say hi or whatever. There's no bad feelings, but you don't get to see that deep part of me. You don't get to connect with me on that certain level. There are certain people who can speak to something that is beyond the surface in your life. And those are what I'm talking about, lifetime. Those are people who have connected with you in a way that speaks to your soul, that speaks to the very being that you are. I did a video on trusting your gut. And I use the word gut because that to me gets to it. But it's your instinct, your inner knowing. When you get to a place in your life where you trust your inner knowing, you can actually connect with people who have that same understanding of inner knowing. And those are the people that you want around for a lifetime, because whenever you get to those relationships, that's where there's something, you don't even have to say anything. And you can just look at each other and you know. You know it without uttering a word. You're both on the same page. You both have an understanding that it doesn't take words, it's a feeling. And I'm telling you, if you ever get into that place where you understand that, I promise you, you will never remove out of that yourself from that space. If you ever get into that place, I promise you, you will never remove yourself from that space. Because when I talk about it giving you life, that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about something that you only know if you've ever developed that. And I don't think you have to be in a marriage to develop that. A lot of people say, well, that comes from your spouse. And it can, but I also believe that it can come from friendships. I believe that inner knowing, when you become that kind of person, you attract those type of people into your life. I hope for all of us, all of you listening, that you will become that kind of person. The person who, I do too, the type of person who will connect with yourself. What I said, it was like build a relationship so that you trust your gut, you trust that inner knowing, you trust God, you trust whatever you want to call it. We all call it some different things, but and to me, in essence, it's all the same thing. You know it when you connect with it. There's nothing else like it. I do believe that. Yes, I do believe that. We get to choose those relationships, though. A lot of times, people are afraid of, oh, you're welcome, Chris. A lot of times, people are afraid of those kind of relationships because I believe that too, James. They're afraid of those kind of relationships because they are afraid of what it will reveal. And what I mean by that is the more I'll use the word that James just used, Chris just used, consciousness. The deeper we get into consciousness, the less we are into the ego self, and the more we become vulnerable. So in our vulnerability, a lot of times it scares us because we don't have control of that place. It's a place where you let go and you don't feel the need to control, because you realize that this space is what created you and you trust it. You trust it. When you get to the place where you trust your inner knowing, when you get to the place where you trust God, or you trust whatever you call it, when you get to the place where you trust that, I'm telling you, it makes a difference in your life. James, I believe I've never tried alkaline food, but I do meditate. I believe that meditation, you know what meditation, it is a stillness of self. It is connecting on a deeper level. And that's exactly what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the connection that happens on a deeper level, that sometimes, because we can't control that, because when you go into meditation, and I meditate, I get up in the morning, I pray and I meditate. You know why? Because I know that there are so many thoughts in a given day that go through my mind that are not healthy. So when I take off that time and I allow, okay, congratulations, James. I take out that time and I allow myself to get still, that inner knowing. I had someone on last week and we talked about holistic health and how, the body can heal itself. But the reason why we never get to that place, okay, Dr. CB, the reason why we can't get to that place is because we don't allow ourselves to enter into that space where we're quiet, where healing does take place, where the body can really regenerate itself. A lot of times this doesn't happen for us because we don't know that it's possible because we've never done it. We've never done it. And so giving yourself the time that it deserves, you deserve for it to happen is scary for a lot of people because they feel like they need to always be in control. So anyone to me, I was the type of person who felt like I needed to be in control. But you know why? Because I had a lot of fear. And fear will make you feel like you need to control everything because unless you control everything, you can't have things your way. So you want to control people, places, and things. And that's a miserable life because you know what? It's just not the way life was intended for us to be. We don't have to control everything. If we give up our control, if we surrender our control to something that is greater than us, we can have experiences that we are not having right now because we don't give ourselves the space for that. So all of that to say that I believe meditation is a way that we can open up that door for it to happen, for us to sit and really be still and get to hear what is really going on. Fasting, yes. Fasting has so many benefits. It's another way. There are certain things that happen with the body. You enter into ketosis. All of those kinds of things that can happen with fasting. I know, my dad was a preacher, so fasting, we learned all about the spiritual aspect. Okay, that's fasting, so you can consecrate yourself, set yourself aside. But so many other things that I learned about fasting that I can utilize, not just the way my dad taught me, but many ways that I now know that fasting can benefit me spiritually, mentally, physically. If we only allow ourselves to see one aspect of meditation, fasting, consciousness, whatever you want to call it, if you allow yourself to only see it one way, there are so many ways that you are missing because you have tunnel vision. And to me, that's what I say, why we are afraid. Even though I was raised by a pastor, my dad was a bishop as well. Even though I was raised in this spiritual, religious household, I wasn't just religious. I was spiritually minded. I always had that mind, that questioning things. Like, okay, if God is real, how do we know that? How do we know certain things can happen? And how do we, if I'm fasting, what does that really mean? What does that look like? Is it just for my spiritual, or is there something that happens with my body? I believe when we begin to question things, it helps us to understand so much more about what can happen. It's necessary so that we don't just allow ourselves to only see things from one lens. For me, that is how I have grown to the place where I believe I am. I may have started in church, but I didn't stay where I started. I think that's what happens for a lot of us. My parents' job in my life was to introduce me to God or another way. That was the only reason for them to be my parents. They were to introduce me to another way of living. They opened the door. I wasn't supposed to stay there. A lot of times, what happens is we get introduced to something, but we don't understand that it's just our way in. It's the questioning, it's the asking, it's the seeking, it's the, ask, seek, knock. It's all of that that brings you to a further revelation of what it means for you. I don't want anybody else to be like me. I want you to be like you. There are ways that I think all of us are introduced to certain things. I think of life like a street. There are many avenues to get to 4th Street. We don't all have to take the same way to get to 4th Street. But what I want for all of us is that we get to 4th Street, whatever that is in your life. Find your way. Yes, exactly. But a lot of us get there, Alex, and we stay there. We don't seek to know more. We don't seek a deeper relationship. We don't grow. Like, can you imagine you're born one day old, and 50 years later you're still one day old? That's not how life is. That isn't the experience that I believe that we're supposed to have on earth. This is me. This is nobody. This is Carla. This is my channel. This is me. I believe that we are introduced to ways of living because it is possible for us to grow from that place. But we have to choose growth. We can choose being stagnant, or we can choose to grow. I hope that you will choose to grow. I believe that growth is possible for all of us. I do. I believe that growth is possible, and that you will know how you've grown by the conversations that you have. The conversations that you have are going to tell you whether or not you've grown. I love it. I love that we can all choose to be a better person today than we were yesterday, to be better tomorrow than we were today. That's all that growth is, making a conscious choice to be better today than you were yesterday. And I started this all out by talking about friendships, relationships, and the difficulty as a mature woman of developing them. And I think what I can say I've concluded to this point is that the reasons why we don't have those is because of all the things that we talked about. People growing in themselves and becoming, I don't want a relationship with someone who's just like, okay, this is just, I'm not trying to grow. We're not going to connect because I'm trying to grow. If you're not bringing anything to the table, then don't even come my way. It's just not for me. Alex, you are always welcome. I appreciate having you here. I hope that something was said today that sparked your interest to grow and to develop yourself, and to look for relationships that help you to develop and grow yourself. If you are new to this channel, please like and subscribe. If you are a returning subscriber, please, thank you so much for being a part of this channel. I really appreciate. I know I have guys on here from London. I appreciate you guys coming on, chatting it up with me. Thank you, Alex. I appreciate that. I try to go live every Wednesday at 7 o'clock, just to share this time. Minnesota. Oh, okay, Alex, great. Welcome. Just to come on here, share, every now and again I will have a guest. I didn't have a guest tonight. I'm traveling, but I wanted to come on and share with you. Thank you for those of you who tuned in. Thank you for your likes. Thank you for those of you who stayed. It was not my intention to stay on this long, but here we are. Please like, subscribe, and share. Have an amazing day, and I'll talk to you guys again soon. Bye, everyone.